Hello, it's your boy, Cobb, aka Double Flamingo, aka the GOAT, aka Better Than You at Pokemon, and I'm going to be going over my team in the newest Pokemon Draft League. Now, last league didn't necessarily go the best for me, ended up in 4th place after going into playoffs with the first seed, but this season's probably going to be better because I decided to draft a beautiful, beautiful Rain team. And it goes without saying, but if you don't know how Pokemon Draft Leagues work, I believe up here in the little information tab, I'm going to put a link to a PokeMMD video, which explains how they work. So if you're confused, you should probably watch that before you watch this. Now, I'm going to get into my team that I drafted. So, this new league that I'm doing, the Pussy Draft League Season 2, has a lot of interesting Pokemon on the board. Chiyu's not banned, Chenpau's not banned, Darkrai's not banned, friggin' Landorus Eye isn't banned. This is National Dex, by the way. A bunch of really, really broken Pokemon aren't banned, but there's only one I really cared about. Urshifu Rapid Strike. This dude was originally 16 points. And for some reason, he's not banned, even though Surging Strikes is one of the worst abortions of a move to ever exist. But I ended up with a wheel pick. I ended up with pick number 16 in the entire draft out of 16 coaches. So I didn't expect to get him. But I figured if he gets to me, might as well draft Rain. And lo and behold, he did get to me. However, my first pick on my team was not Urshifu Rapid Strike. It was, in fact, Zapdos. Now, Zapdos, I think, makes a great component to a Rain team that I'm trying to draft. You can already see the first 5 mons on my team up here and how I'm working with Rain. Zapdos is great. Electric Flying typing is very, very strong. I get Stab Thunders, I get Stab Hurricanes, and then Zapdos is Zapdos. He's got 100 base speed, 125 base special attack, the ability to hit very, very hard inside of Rain. If you put a Choice Specs on this guy, he's even stronger. But also versatility to, if I need him as a defogger, if I need him to Thunder Wave, paralyze something, if I want to heal up with Roost, if I just want to pivot out with U-turn instead of being dependent on Volt Switch to switch out. Zapdos is a really, really versatile Pokemon. Also, with its two abilities, Pressure and Static. Static probably a little bit better than Pressure. 30% chance of paralyzing something if they hit it. Zapdos is just a very irreplaceable component to this team. Its stabs in conjunction with my other water types will let me hit bulky grasses like Tangrowth, and I fail to think of another bulky grass, but there's a lot of bulky grasses, take my word on it. It's just really good typing. Oh, and I can hit bulky waters, which water is not very effective against water, so that's a really good component. But star of the show, Urshifu, the GOAT, 130 base attack, 97 speed. Speed's kind of whatever-ish when there's a bunch of base 100s running around, especially in National Dex. But the appeal of this mon is Surging Strikes. 3 hits, 25 power each, always crit. Forces you to bring a Water Absorber, because if I'm running a Choice Band for whatever reason on a given week, then Surging Strikes can 2 KO even resists. Or say I'm not running Choice Band, and it's like, oh, it's going to hit me 3 times. Maybe I'm going to bring like a Rocky Helmet or something. Boom, Punching Glove. Boom, I run SD. Crush your entire set. There's nothing that can be done. Urshifu is broken and probably should have been banned, but after I win a bunch with this mon this season, it's probably going to end up banned. Like, it's freaking 394 attack. That's a lot of attack. If you don't know how high attack should be, that's a lot of attack. But yeah, Urshifu is very, very strong. Next up, because I picked these two as a pair, because I had the wheel pick in the draft, in case, and I keep saying this, in case you don't know what a wheel pick is, I essentially, because it is a snake format in the draft, going back to this document, it goes 1 to 10, then 10 to 1, and I was the last picking player. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way over to 8, and then back down to me. I do pick number 16 at the end of the first round, and then I do the first pick of the second round, and it keeps going like that the entire way. So I just get to make a bunch of picks in pairs, which is really, really useful for getting synergistic Pokemon. And I decided to pick up a premium defensive package. Now, I wanted defensive mons that could potentially stop Urshifu and Zapdos from doing a lot. And these two really, really don't like Ferrothorn. But if I have Ferrothorn, then nothing else can really, like, no one else can draft Ferrothorn. So great bring for me. And he's also just, like, really broken. Ferrothorn on a rain team, 4 times weak to fire, but rain half the damage of fire. So am I really weak to fire? Also just makes a killer type combination with these guys. You don't want to get hit by an ice move, you cover the ice move. You don't want to get hit by... You don't want to get hit by a rock move, you cover the rock move. There's many other types I can think of. Like a strong fairy type could blow through these two, but not Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn usually just provides a bunch of support to the team. I can run a set with Curse if I want to. Could just fire off a Gyro Ball, fire off a Body Press, set up hazards with both Stealth Rock and Spikes. Most common thing it does is just Leech Seed something, knock off something. It's just got a really, really diverse move pool. And, well, it's not even that diverse, but it doesn't need to be diverse. I can paralyze things with Thunder Wave. I can Toxic them with Toxic. Just get a bunch of chip. This thing is one of my most useful defensive mons, and probably, like, this is the broken guy, but he's going to be doing a lot of the hard work. So, next mon I chose to pick up on my team, alongside Ferrothorn, was another mon that can potentially stop Urshifu and stop Zapdos, because Clodsire, my goat, I've drafted him once before, very, very useful. This guy is a ground type with Water Absorb. Poison ground type with Water Absorb. So, close combat, not very effective. Surging Strikes, wouldn't be able to hit it. But again, if I get Clodsire, no one else can get Clodsire. And Clodsire is just a really, really useful defensive Pokemon. 130 health and 100 base Spadef, which pairs really solid with Ferrothorn. If I run Fizdef on this and Spadef with this, there's not a lot of things that can hit both of these guys super effectively. It would need to be like a really strong, like, I don't even know if there's... Maybe like a Mega Camerupt, but that guy doesn't do anything to me. It would need to be a really, really strong, physically attacking fire type, probably. But still, I have a rain team. Why do I care about fire types? But back to Clodsire. Clodsire is really bulky. He gets choices in if he wants to bring Water Absorb or Unaware, which, despite me having a bunch of water types and a bunch of water resists, sometimes Water Absorb might be useful in case I'm going against someone who drafted, say, a Dracovish or a Walking Wake or something else that just has a really, really strong and spammable water stab. Or like, say there's a Palafin. Palafin is trying to abuse the fact that I have Rain and hit me with a Jet Punch. I bring Water Absorb on Clodsire, suddenly Palafin can't touch me. And otherwise it just gets really diverse set of moves. Haze can stop setup sweepers if I'm not running Unaware, which I didn't even go in Unaware. Unaware stops any setup sweepers, which is always useful to have in a draft format. Gunk Shot scares out fairy types. Always can heal myself up with Recover. Can also set up hazards like Ferrothorn. Set up Toxic Spikes as well, which is useful for another mon I'm going to get to later. It's just, Clodsire is a really, really solid defensive mon. It is really, really great that no one else can have him but me. And he's just really strong. But next up, because this is National Dex in which I'm doing this, you got Mega Swampert. Mega Swampert, 150 base attack, really solid defenses. So very difficult to take down unless you're hitting it with a grass move, because also water ground typing only hits super effectively by grass. And 70 base speed with Swift Swim isn't really like that bad. Like, say I'm running max speed, this hits 478, which is faster than I want to say everything in the game except Regieleki, unless they're running a Choice Scarf, which forces my opponent to bring Choice Scarfs in order to counter this. And if they're bringing Scarfs, then it's harder for them to deal with my defensive pressure. Swampert is just a really good bring to this team. And most weeks, because this is National Dex and everything gets all its moves back, I can just sort of pivot around with Flip Turn, utilize the fact that I'm faster than everything, hit him with a base 60 power move that lets me get free momentum into something else. Usually I can run Adamant, because unless he's running a Scarfer, I don't need to be Jolly. And you're taking a rain boosted Flip Turn from a thing with 438 attack. Very dangerous. Swampert's also good into the electric types that kind of threaten the rest of my team. These first 5 aren't really super threatened by electric, but as we get further in my draft, you'll see that electric is potentially kind of a problem, especially if I don't bring Claude. But Swampert stops Volt Switches, hits things with big powerful Earthquakes, If I want to, I can run a bulk up set and just sweep my opponent like that. If I want to, I can hit something hard with hammer arm if it's walling my water ground stab. Power up punch if I'm feeling quirky. Can set up rocks with this as well, so I got great hazard pressure between the three of these. And yeah, Swampert is a really, really useful bring to my team. I can stop enemy burns because I get refresh back as well. It's just a very, very threatening mon, usually a win condition. Usually will soften up enemy defenses. If you have anything that's not a resist in on it, you're probably going to die. And even if you have a resist in, if you're not that bulky, you're not going to like taking a flip turn or a liquidation or an earthquake. Really, really strong Pokemon. But what's a weather team without a weather setter? And Pelipper is the best rain setter in this format, I believe. Probably going to be running Drizzle every week. I don't see a reason to run Rain Dish or Keen-Eye. And because this is National Dex, it gets some of its better moves back. Gets back Defog, so I can get rid of hazards on the enemy team, alongside Zapdos, which also is Defogger. I get Hydro Pump if I need the damage, Hurricane if I need the damage. Flying coverage is really useful on rain teams because it threatens out the grass types. And nothing really likes taking 110 base power move that can't miss. I get knockoff for utility. I can pivot out with U-turn, toxic things. If I want to set up Tailwind for some reason, even though I have Swift Swimmers, I can set up Tailwind. Useful for the Urshifu. It's just a really reliable Pokemon. Oh, and Scald is back. Yay! 30% chance to burn with no risk. Super, super awesome. This is a really, really useful rain setter. I'm really glad I have something like this over something like Politoed, which, like, ew, these stats. Ew, this move pool. I guess you get Encore, but, like, where's my knockoff? Where's my pivot move? It's so gross. Disgusting. But Pelipper's useful to have. And if I need, for some reason, a decent physically defensive mon, it can run Fizz Def. It can wall potentially scary fighting types. It can wall potentially scary... I'm trying to think of things that Water Flying resist. Just take my word for it that not a lot can threaten this offensively on the physical side if I'm running Fizz Def. It's just a really solid Pokemon. Pelipper is really solid. Very good Rainmon. But something I've noticed with rain teams in general, and this is why I usually think weather teams are a trap, like weather teams, trick room teams, any team that is defined by a gimmick. If you can make the gimmick work on a given week, it's really broken. If you can't make the gimmick work on a given week, then you kind of just lose. So I want this team to be a little bit multimodal, and I was thinking about a good Sticky Webber to pick up, because if you look at Urshifu over here, 97 speed isn't really outrunning much on its own, but with Sticky Webs, let's run a little calc. 293 times, I guess, divided by 0.67, because that's what would be happening to the opponent. I would have effectively 437 speed in Sticky Webs, which outruns things like Dragapult. It outruns things like Zeraora. It's just faster than, I want to say, everything except for Electrode, Deoxys Speed, and Regieleki, which is really, 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 really useful to have. So I was thinking about the different Sticky Webbers I could pick up. Masquerain would sort of double up on a bunch of types. Slurpuff I was considering, but I don't really want it. So I decided I was going to pick up Orbeetle. Orbeetle is Bug Psychic, which helps me a little bit into fighting, 4 times resist to fighting, helps me a little bit into ground. It is a resist to ground. It just has some decent resists that I was kind of lacking on my team. It's also a psychic resist. My team is kind of weak to psychic as is. Ferrothorn's my only good check, but if you have a lot of good psychic types get Mystical Fire, which is kind of scary. So I wanted something that can be able to check that. Very solid defensive stats. Base 90 speed is super useful when I'm setting up hazards, which most of the time this comes, it's usually just going to be Sticky Webbing. But if I wanted to run something different, I could run Calm Mind, Iron Defense, Stored Power, Body Press, if I was feeling myself. And if it doesn't have any really, really strong answers, then I can, if my opponent doesn't have a lot of strong answers, this could potentially sweep, which sweeping with Orbeetle when I have a Mega Swampert and an Urshifu is interesting. Gets the Frisk ability, which lets me scout out opponent items. Very, very useful in a draft format when I have more information on what my opponent is bringing. And Orbeetle, just generally solid pickup. generally useful pickup. Next up is Basket Legion. Basket Legion is obviously useful in rain with its Swift Swim ability, obviously useful in rain as a water type. Unfortunately, Last Respects is banned. I only say unfortunately because I wanted to actually destroy everyone, but with Last Respects being banned, there aren't really that many good Ghost Stabs left for Basket Legion. I get Phantom Force if I'm running male Basket Legion, and if I'm running female Basket Legion, which I get both, then I have the ability to run Shadow Ball. A lot weaker than Last Respects, a lot less reliable, but it's there. Basket Legion gives me a decent priority mon, and it has a lot of versatility week by week. If I'm fighting someone with, say, a Quagsire or a Lantern or something that has Water Absorb, or a Gastrodon which has Storm Drain, I can run Mold Breaker that week and then be fine hitting all my water moves into that. I can run Adaptability if I ever want to run, like, say, a Choice Banded, Adaptability Aqua Jet in the rain. Hits things super hard, or if I'm fighting a slow team in which I don't need Swift Swim, which base 78 speed is pretty slow, but maybe sometimes I can get away with not running Swift Swim. Swift Swim is probably what I'm going to be running most weeks, just because, as I mentioned previously with Mega Swampert, like, a little bit of speed investment goes a long way when your speed is doubled. It's just a generally solid Rainmon. Gives me a lot of decent options. Spin Blocker, because it's my only Ghost type on the team, which is useful when I mentioned previously how this thing is getting up Hazard sometimes, this thing is getting up Rock sometimes, this thing's getting up Hazard sometimes. So it's important to be able to stop a Rapid Spin and threaten something out with immediate offense, which this guy hits pretty hard. Kind of difficult to kill with the base 120 health. Basket Legion is a very solid pick. Next up, keeping up the Hisui train, and it's not going to stop, is Overquill. Overquill, Poison Dark, only weak to ground, which synergizes pretty well with my Zapdos and my Pelipper that I have previously. My team, as stands right now, any decent Ghost type clicks Shadow Ball and immediately wins, and I kind of don't want that to happen, so I drafted Overquill. Once again, another Swift Swimmer, imagine that. Really broken in rain. Intimidate, always useful to have in draft. Stops potentially scary physical sweepers from getting off the ground. It's very useful to have with its complementary typing. Its signature move Barbarage is useful if I were to set up Toxic Spikes with my Quagsire, or I can set up Toxic Spikes with this on its own. It gets a really useful, versatile move pool. It can taunt things. It can set up even more hazards. Get rid of stuff with Haze. Force trades with Destiny Bond, which it'll always be faster if it's Swift Swimming in the rain. And yeah, Barbarage is particularly solid because it's really just like Gunk Shot that can't miss if I have Spikes up with this thing or Spikes up with Claude. It's just Basket Legion provides a very useful offensive dimension to my team, and like I can even use it defensively some weeks. Like 85-95 Fizdef is not at all bad. If I were to slap an Assault Vest on this, I could make it decently okay at Special Bulk. It's just Overquill is a very malleable Pokemon depending on what I need week by week. Poison Dark is really good into a lot of matchups, so it's useful to slap on my team, and synergistic because it's not a water type. It doesn't hit the same things that all these things hit. It's another thing that can hit Grass guys. It's a thing that can hit Ghosts. It's a thing that can hit Psychics. It's just really useful. So the rest of my draft is less Mons that I'm probably going to be bringing on most weeks, and just Mons that I thought, you know what, they're decent, and I'll pick them up because I don't want anyone else having them, or I think it'd be fun to have them. So Wordeer. Wordeer's stats really surprised me. 100, 103, 72, 75 bulk is like surprisingly solid. Like, this thing gets Calm Mind. It can set up with Calm Mind. I want to say it can get bulk up. I don't think it can actually get bulk up. Yeah, it can't, unfortunately. But decently solid offensive and defensive threat. If there's some weeks where like there's a really scary Grassmon, like I don't know, a Celebi or a Tapu Bulu or a Rillaboom, and I want to Sipper switch in because none of my other guys like taking grass moves all too much, I can bring Wordeer, get a free switch, get a free setup, and run one of its many sets. I can just run a physical set with return because its offensive stats are the same. I can run a special set with your classic Psychic or Psyshock plus, I want to say this thing gets Hyper Voice, but it might not. Probably just Terra Blast is normal stab. Let's see what other special moves it gets. I'm learning with everyone else. Earth Power is really solid. Grab moves are always good. Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, decent coverage. Thunder and Rain, decent coverage. This is another guy that can do stored power, like I was mentioning with the Orb Beetle. Wordier is just really decent. Like, surprisingly decent. And if I agility, get the +2, its speed becomes like actually respectable. And not a lot wants to switch in on this Mon without forcing a trade, because its offense is decent, its defense is decent. If I'm running a boosting item and the right coverage on the right week, it's pretty solid. Like, normal Psychic is a pretty decent defensive typing, only hits super effectively by Dark and Bug. So Wordier, I don't know. He's not really in my plans to bring him in any weeks I can see coming, but I might get surprised with something in prep. Next, my team is Lego City Ludicolos, so I have to pick up Ludicolo. Go to Colo. Another guy with Swift Swim. I could run Rain Dish if I'm feeling gimmicky. Ludicolo is just a happy little guy. Water Grass type is kind of useful because it gives me an offensive Mon that can use Grass Stab. Ferrothorn's great. Not really that offensive. This guy's not really that offensive either with the base 90 special attack, which is kind of mediocre, but his stats are pretty okay. I can easily invest in a little bit of bulk. Its typing is kind of weird to hit, especially with how my defensive Mons lie at the moment. Like, you can hit this guy with a Bug move, but I can switch into my Zapdos. You can hit this guy with a Flying move, but I can switch into my Zapdos. You can hit him with a... I think it's just weak to Bug and Flying, actually. Yeah, because neutral to Grass, neutral to Electric, neutral to Fire. Yeah, that's crazy. Ludicolo is potentially a surprising bring on some weeks. I get Swift Swim Encore, which is useful if I want to just generate momentum. Fake Out, which can stall out enemy screens turns or just is a really broken priority move. It's normal stabs with Giga Drain, Grass Knot, and Hydro Pump. Leaf Storm if I need a quick little nuke. I can run a defensive set with Knockoff and Leech Seed and maybe like Toxic and Substitute or something. It's not a great Pokemon. Like, there's a reason that it's only worth like 6 points, but it's surprisingly malleable. And I think there could be a week where I bring it if it has like, if I'm fighting a guy who has a lot of grass weeks or my water types aren't particularly outstanding, then shoot, I'll bring Ludicolo. Bring the mascot. Might as well bring the mascot. And the last guy on my team was supposed to be Morgrim, but I got sniped on Morgrim. I wanted a decent fairy on this team so I could switch into dragons because my team, as it stands, really doesn't like dragon types. Ferrothorn is my only good switch in on dragons, and it can easily get worn down if it has any coverage move that's like either fighting or fire or just a decent neutral ground, and it hits me on the right like defense on depending on the week. Like if I'm running Fizz Def and it hits me specially, then a dragon would be scary. So I might rework this team to try and fit in a fairy. But the reason I wanted Morgrim was it's a 1-point prankster Pokemon, so I figured might as well get a different 1-point prankster Mon in Volbeat. Volbeat stats pretty shit. It's a Volbeat. It's a little bug. It bugs you. That's what it does. But it's got decent utility with Prankster. Can set up screens for me, or at least light screen. Can Prankster Encore things into stuff, which is really useful at stopping setup if I want to bring it for whatever week. Also a defogger if for some reason, well, I could be running offensive Zapdos and not bringing Pelipper, which I don't know why I would do that. I could be running offensive Zapdos and need the slots of my Pelipper, and I want a second manual Rain Setter, which this thing is a manual Rain Setter with Prankster Rain Dance. I can trick something, a shitty item, and cripple it. I can Thunder Wave I can cripple things with Thunder Wave. I can boost my team with Tailwind. Like, this Mon, like, don't get me wrong, he's pretty shit, but maybe if I bring him, he could do like a little bit of work. I usually make a habit of trying to bring every mod on my team to at least one battle. So Volbeat probably will show up at some point, but I can't think of a particular use case. Like it is one of the few mods that gets Tail Glow, which is +3 special attack, which is like really, really good. Don't get me wrong. But like its special move pool is Bug Buzz. It's actually okay. Bug Buzz, Thunder, Dazzling Gleam, Giga Drain, if I wanted Air Cutter for whatever reason. It's a Volbeat. Volbeat's gonna do what Volbeat does. Maybe I can hit something with a Mud Slap if I'm fighting a Heatran or something, and I hit him with +3 Mud Slap, do a solid like 20%. But yeah, Rain Team. That's my Rain Team. That is my team builder. Not my team builder, but my draft analysis. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you look forward to my first battle, which will be happening this Tuesday. I'm going to upload my perspective of that, I believe, probably this coming weekend. So look out for that. If you're watching this channel, thanks for watching, and adios.